Hiya. Today's video is just to quickly go through the Lucky Dip Yarnling Cowl pattern, and this video's just to go alongside the pattern. That's the noise of dogs getting into their beds. Sorry about that. So this video is just to take you through the whole project in case you're not sure what you're doing or want a bit of inspiration or anything like that. So first of all, thank you to everybody who's downloaded the pattern. That's awesome. And thank you to everybody who has been buying yarnlings to make it with as well. That's really cool. So we sell yarnlings. These are 5-gram balls of 4-ply. We do them in double knit as well, in 10-gram balls. And the idea is that it means that you can sample lots of different yarn bases and colours all in one go. So for example here we have, there we go, let's just tilt the camera down a bit. So here, there we go, we have, this one is Askham 4-ply, which is baby alpaca and silk. Oh, you can't see me very much. There we go, let's try that one. So this is baby alpaca and silk. And then this one is Oakworth 4-ply, which is pure superwash Polwarth wool. This one is Brimham High Twist, so that's superwash merino and nylon, but it's the high twist. Let me just see if I can get the camera to focus on that. I'm not sure that I can. Hopefully you can see it okay. And then this one, for example, is Napier 4-ply, which is our sparkly superwash merino and nylon yarn. This is the one with lurex in, and if you can hopefully see that, the lurex is wound around the yarn. It's like spun in properly. But then we've got like Silverdale 4-ply. So this is also superwash merino and nylon, but this has stellina for the sparkle. And it's a totally different look, even though it's still sparkly. With stellina, what you find is that the fibres kind of stick out in the way that like wool and all the other fibres do. So you get a completely different look. And there's the two together. They're both absolutely gorgeous. And then again in here, there's a bit more sparkly. Can see that. There's Milburn 4-ply, which is the Blueface Leicester and silk. What else have we got? Oh, that's a good one. Coniston Fingering, which is mohair and superwash merino singles. We have some Hayton 4-ply as well. That's our merino cashmere nylon. Boland 4-ply, which is pure Blueface Leicester, and more of the same, to be honest. More Oakworth, a bit of Carlisle Fingering, which is a pure merino, pure superwash merino. So yarnlings are a really great way to sample lots of different yarns, lots of different colours, see how they go together, look at those together. Hey, just beautiful. One thing that I will say is that these are done by weight. So you might notice, for example, let me pull this one out, that they look different sizes. Okay, you can hopefully see that. So Askham 4-ply, which is the baby alpaca and silk, makes a very small yarnling. But it's still 5 grams and it's still 5 grams worth of the yardage of the yarn, if that makes sense. Brimham High Twist is actually a little bit small as well. And then like that's a kind of averagely sized one. That's Tempo 4-ply. So don't be alarmed if they look different sizes. Okay, it doesn't mean you're getting any more or less yarn, it's still 5 grams. So yeah, that's our yarnlings. And this project It's just because I had lots of people wanting to buy them but wondering what to do with them, and with a head full of ideas I just had to crack on. So this is a lovely simple project, and can I just say, projects don't have to be complicated to be fun, to be eye-catching, to be satisfying and to be enjoyable to wear. Just the simplest things can sometimes bring you the most pleasure. It doesn't have to be wildly complicated, and I'm a fan of complicated things too, but simple things are good as well. So I'll just take that off and then you can see it. And there we have it. You are looking at the back there. Just make out where I've changed colours, and there's the front. So what materials do you need? You need 15 Lucky Dip yarn rings, which we have here. You need 1 ball of Milburn 4-ply for your main colour, which is the thin stripes. You need, I think it was, I should have checked this, shouldn't I? 3.25mm needles to get gauge. The gauge is listed on the pattern. I can't remember it off the top of my head, so please check the pattern for that. I actually knitted this at quite a loose gauge, which I'm trying to do at the moment because I've got lots of RSIs down one side, and knitting loosely really helps kind of stave them off a little bit. So you might actually find that your gauge might match a bit better on a 3.5mm needle. I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case. Or if you're a tight knitter, possibly even bigger. The only reason that I mention gauge with a project like this, and to be honest, I wouldn't normally particularly bother, but the only reason I mention that is because if your gauge is different, you'll get a different number of rounds out of each yarn ring. Okay, so that's the only reason that I bring up gauge. It's obviously not that crucial in terms of how you want your fabric to look and the sizing of your cowl. They will change according to your gauge, but you know, it's gonna fit, isn't it? That's the thing. But just like I say, just be aware that if your gauge is different, you might get more or fewer rounds out of each yarn ring. Okay, and if you're not sure, all you need to do is weigh one before you start your round, knit around, weigh it again, see how much you've used. It might be like 2 grams, for example, and then you'll know how many rounds you can get out of each yarn ring by doing that. And the yarns do differ a little bit. So I think I got 8 rounds out of most of these. I think there might be 7 of some of them. But, you know, once it's washed and lay it out flat to dry, you can't tell. And it's scrunched up around your neck as well. So, yeah, there we go. So I've got a list here just to make sure that I cover everything. Hopefully I will do. Okay, so the cast on that I use is the cable cast on. I think it's also known as the knitted cast on, where you make your slip knot, you knit into it, pull the yarn through and hook it onto your left needle. And then after that I go in between the stitches. So I go in between the first and second stitch, draw the yarn through and hook it on the needle. And I use that cast on for most things, if I'm honest. I find it nice and stretchy and sturdy, perfectly neat. Just wondering which yarn I cast on with. Ah, so this is my cast on edge. So that's nice and stretchy, perfectly sturdy, perfectly neat. Does the job. So nice simple cast on, cable cast on. Your first stripe is going to be ribbed. So you need to join to work in the round, and obviously you're going to want to be careful not to twist your stitches, as always. If you're not sure, what you could do is work one row flat and then join to work in the round. If you leave yourself enough of a tail, you'll be able to sew up any gap that might appear. But that's quite a good way to make it easier to make sure that you're not twisting your stitches when you join to knit in the round. So that's that one. I've talked about gauge. And the next thing is joining new colours. So I have separately videoed the clasped weft join, done both continental style, which is how I knit, and done English or right-handed style, English I guess people call it, as well, so that you can see how it looks done both ways. So I really recommend a clasped weft join for this project, because, and I use it for, for things like this, because it means you don't have to weave the ends in afterwards. Where is my book? Here it is. Would you like to see the inside? There we go. Got a few that still need cutting off. Can't even see the rest of them. Lost them. Where are they? Oh, there they are. There we go. There are my ends. So, for a clasped weft join, all you do is you take the end of your working yarn and you get your new colour that you're bringing in, and you loop that strand around the old strand, so they're like that, and you knit a few stitches with each colour held double, and it means that afterwards you can just snip the ends. Now what I normally do is, as I'm going along, I'll cut sort of the long tail off, but I don't cut it right to the quick, because when you wash and block this, what you find is that these ends kind of settle in, and if you've cut them to the quick, they'll often pop through to the other side, and then you end up having to mess about with them afterwards again anyway. So wait till after it's washed and dried before you cut the ends short. I mean, I've not even cut them that short really. So that's bringing in new colours. Okay. And that's really all you're doing. Just alternating 2 rounds with your main colour, and then about 8 rounds with a contrast colour. And the whole joy of it is just not knowing which colour's going to come next. I found it quite hard to let go and not take control over which orders the colours were coming in. But once I got my head around it, I actually really enjoyed it. And it really keeps you motoring through the project, and it injects a lot of joy, because you kind of like, you want to know which colour's going to come next, so you're kind of like knitting along, and then like, which one's it going to be? Oh, it's that. Oh, I really love that colour. Yeah, right, let's get on with that. And then you start knitting with it. But you kind of want to go quickly as well, because you're just dying to see it started to be knitted up into that next stripe, and to see how it's going to look with the rest of it, and see how the colour's knitting up as well. So it's one of those projects, I found it really Moorish. And so yeah, all I did was I had these in a project bag, and I just put my hand in and just picked out whatever came up next. And even if I thought it might clash, I just went with it. And here's the thing, do any of these really actually clash? No. Would I have put that next to, well, that next to that? Probably not, but it looks good. Would I have put that next to that? No, but I love it. So that's the thing about doing a project like this. Right, So the only other thing that I really wanted to mention, well, casting off, make sure you cast off quite loosely. That's my cast off edge. It's actually slightly tight. It could have done to been a little bit looser. If you're not sure how many rounds you'll get out of this, and if you've got enough for the cast off edge in your final yarnling, cast off in the main colour. You'll have enough left over. The other thing is, if you're not happy with this amount of ribbing, because it does fold over, I don't really care, but if that's going to bother you and you want more ribbing, you could definitely do more with your main colour. Or you could do the first 2 yarnlings and this stripe in ribbing. That would look cool. You could also do folded hems. So you could knit a couple of stripes maybe, or you could do some with your main colour. Fold it over, you catch your stitches all the way along, and then you carry on knitting. I love a folded hem actually. I have them on a lot of my projects, like jumpers and things like that. And another alternative would be an I-cord edge. I think that would look really cool. Again, big fan of an I-cord edge. I think that would look awesome. Again, you might want to do that in your main colour. That would look really cool actually, wouldn't it? So yeah, I hope that helps. I've worn this cowl absolutely loads since I finished it, because being 4-ply, it's actually just the right weight for this time of year. It's middle of November as we speak, and it's quite mild, but it's still quite cool. So a 4-ply cowl is just the job for me at the moment. So yeah, that's all I really wanted to mention, and I wanted to kind of publish the videos with the clasped weft join. Try saying that 10 times over. And then before we go, I'll just mention that if you love the yarnlings, but you don't really want a cowl, we've got other things as well. We've actually got a special sock set of yarnlings. It's Lucky Dip again, but it means you get enough for a pair of socks, and the yarns that I pick out will all be yarns that are appropriate for making socks with. So they're all superwash, they're all nice and hard wearing. I don't include any singles yarns in the sock set, because you could definitely have these in the legs, but then you would not really be doing Lucky Dip, because you'd want to make sure that you got this on a leg, not on the foot. So yeah, the sock sets are really cool, and they're a lot of fun to put together actually. We've got double knit yarnlings as well. There will be a double knit yarnling cowl. I mean, I say pattern, it's not really a pattern. Well, it is a pattern, but it's more of a recipe, I suppose. It's just for inspiration and just to give you an idea of what to do if you want to make one. So the double knit Lucky Dip yarnling cowl will be coming very soon as well. And yeah, that's all. Happy knitting. So here is how to do the clasped weft join. Okay, so we've come to the end of this colour. We have a tail. And this is the next colour. Okay, so I knit continental. So I shall show you that way round first, and then I shall show you the other way round. So I've stopped 3 stitches before the end. And all you do is you take the yarn you're bringing in and you hook it around the previous yarn, pull a bit of a tail through, and then you're going to knit with it. Okay, so I've got hold of both strands in my left hand. I'm maintaining some tension in the old colour by keeping hold of that too. There's a little bit of guesswork to do here in terms of how much of this you're going to need to cover the 3 stitches, and it's more than you might think. So let's start with that much. That's more than an inch. It's probably, what's that, 1.5 inches maybe? And we just knit 1, 2, 3, and that's hit just about right. Doesn't have to be dead on. Slip the stitch marker, and then you're into your new colour. So again, 3, 1, 2, 3, and then drop the tail and carry on as normal. And it means that your tails can just be snipped. And there are some that I did earlier. I don't cut them to the quick until after blocking, because when you block this, chances are your stitches will move about and your tails will move a little bit. Okay, so that's the continental way of doing the clasped weft join. And let me just show you what happens if you're not quite happy with where your join hit. So I'll undo those 3. Now say you'd made colour 1 a little bit too short. You would see something like this. Oh, that means that stitch will be in this colour. So all I do is undo that second stitch and allow a bit of yarn to run through, and then try again. And there, that's about right. That should hit around about where the stitch marker is. There we go. And you can't particularly see these joins. Doesn't leave a lump or anything. So that's it. That's the continental version of the clasped weft join. For a right-handed, or English style, I suppose, clasped weft join. Try saying that quickly 10 times. We have the left hand just holding down the tail end of the old colour so that you can catch both strands with your right hand. I've gone into the back there because my stitch got twisted. Okay. I've not left myself enough tail, so my new colour is going to hit 1 stitch too early. So I shall undo that second stitch, pull out a bit more, which is guesswork, and try again. Doesn't need to be exact, it just needs to be satisfactory, really. That's better. Okay, so that's hit around about the right point. And we do another 3 stitches. Then drop the tail of the new colour, and drop the tail of the old colour, and carry on knitting as normal. That is your clasped weft join. It's very useful for sort of things in the round. I use it a lot on jumpers, and it's great because you don't then need to sew all the ends in. These will all be able to just be snipped